Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to episode 46 of Wings, Beers, and Tears, your DMV sports podcast. Here we are. It is now June, and we have real live sports to talk about. Not much to analyze here in the States, but it is coming, folks. Be patient, be patient. And we have a guest tonight, Mr. Major. Hopefully you guys can hear the bark in the background soon. He says, fuck social distancing. He's going to come up and attack everyone.
He doesn't bark.
He doesn't bark. He's the man.
And kiss everybody.
He's the man. So
we are talking
good.
about a dog in case anybody's wondering.
It is good to be back. Good to be back and have some stuff to talk about other than NFL draft and, off-season bullshit. So hopefully we see some real sports on the horizon. So before we get into the logistics, let's get down to it. I am Todd, joined always by Jerry. How are you?
Hello, how are you doing?
Doing great, sir. And Jeremy?
Yo, what is going on, peeps?
Not much, man. Just, kicking it in the COVID world here in 2020. And looking forward to some more real live action out on the various playing fields. But so far, all we have as far as live sports go, professionally speaking, is still German soccer. English soccer starts next Wednesday. I can't fucking wait.
Who's the team I like again?
You like Arsenal.
Allegedly. Yeah. I mean, that's where my family's allegedly from. I've probably not, but that's what some client I had who's English said. I know my ancestors are from Oxford, and that's who they cheer for. So that's who I cheer for.
Well, Arsenal's a massive, massive English club. I mean, it's a big club around the world. I mean, they're one of those. There's probably 12 to 15 clubs in the world that like garner that Yankees level of like, oh yeah, I know those guys, and Arsenal is up there in my opinion.
I think I'll get into the Premier League a little bit more than the German League, only because there's 27 German league teams, but only 2 play on TV here.
Dortmund and Bayern pretty much every weekend.
Every weekend, yeah.
For whatever reason, they put Schalke on every weekend, and they're just Weston McKennie plays there, but they're fucking awful. God, that was the game we were watching a little bit of, Jay.
Where is Stefan?
He's with. Fuck, I'm not going to pull it. It's not Leverkusen, but it's one of those mid-tier teams. But he's not even the starter there.
Right.
So, but I mean, again, he's a legit pro, and in the top division in Europe. So, I mean, he's the real deal. But no, Premier League, I think, will bring back a little bit more normalcy here in the States because the ratings on NBCSN for Premier League are ridiculously good.
Right.
So that they're really banking on this coming back and being.
How are the German ratings? Are they up?
FS1 has never been better.
It's got to be huge, right?
It's got to be huge.
FS1's just killing it.
And I think NASCAR's killing it too.
Yep. And hey, tomorrow they tee it off at the Charles Schwab for PGA. So
probably the best field that tournament's ever had.
Probably. I mean, they were talking to Schauffele, and however you say his name, Schauffele or Schauffele, and
Xander Schauffele.
And he was saying he was kind of laughing, and he said it's going to be weird with no fans, but he said it'll be like me and my boys playing for money. He goes, albeit this is a little bit more money than we play for when it's just us,
right.
Because the purse is still huge. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. And look, I appreciate the networks taking caution and everything. But what I've heard is the following for the PGA event. Jim Nantz will be basically in a booth by himself at the event.
A bubble, basically.
Yes. Nick Faldo will be afar. He will not be...
He'll be home in Florida.
Right. So he's doing it remotely. Okay, I'm fine with that. They don't have to travel. They don't have to do anything. They only have 2 on-course reporters. Mm-hmm. I don't quite get that. I'm sorry. I mean...
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably normal for a smaller tournament. I don't think they changed up much of what they usually do for this tournament.
You might be right. I thought there was a bigger press presence.
I feel like a lot of times on these smaller tournaments, they only have 1 or 2 people on the course, maybe one following and 1 at 18 or something. Following a big group and then 1 at 18 or something.
You make a good point because a lot of times they're stationed at a hole.
Right.
Okay.
Now, maybe they are reduced by a couple. Maybe they usually have 2 following and 1 at 17, 1 at 18 or something like that. So
I picture Nantz being a little like the red zone guy, where it's just like he's in the booth and they're like, "Hey, over to hole 4, we got to
exactly."
So
I do think usually it's just 2 guys in the booth.
Right.
Faldo. So, again, not that much of a difference. The one thing that will be different is at least some guys will be mic'd up. I don't know who, I don't know how many, but, I know JT turned it down, but, it sounds...
He's gotten so much airtime over the last month.
He just said the conversation with his caddy and with his playing partners are private. It's not just that simple. So
that's fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's probably some of the
So
more-
who's going to be mic'd up?
Don't know yet.
My guess is it's
but
mid-range guys. Yeah. Not a household name, but not a nobody either.
Is Woods playing?
nope. Not
No.
this. But
No.
rumor is he's playing. I guess it's next week because his big ass boat just showed up outside of Hilton Head or wherever next week's tournament is. That might be
That's
wrong
right.
on the location.
No, I think
but
you're right. I think they
it's-
do just go up the coast a little bit.
Yeah. So
I am intrigued to see how they roll everything out, to see if it's seamless, to see if the coverage is good, if there should be no issue with like the graphics and the leaderboard and all that kind of stuff. That they should have that.
It'll be
you know.
fine.
as long as you have producers in studio,
Yeah.
that stuff should all be there.
And especially golf, yes, it's cool when you have the gallery on 18 on Sunday. Other than that, nobody's ever fucking there on Thursday and Friday anyway.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal not having fans for golf. I really don't.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that, again, yeah, it's a little different. I think, if anything, when these guys hit bad shots, we always joke about gallery roll when we play. Well, those guys
Right.
have one. It's hit some poor bastard in the head, but it doesn't go OB.
good
So
call.
that's something that's going to be a little bit different. Some bad shots will
You
not
know what?
stay
That's
in
a
play.
great point.
You know?
You're going to see some that shank off and go off of some guy's leg. Instead, it's now OB.
Or it's just
Right,
in worse shape, one or the other. So that's going to be, some of those lies around the green that used to be, stamped down because of the
Right.
crowd, they won't be. They'll be fluffier, that kind of stuff.
I'm looking forward to
and we may
seeing
see
it.
that.
Quality of play should be fine. I mean, these guys have all fucking been playing at their home courses, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Shoffley who even said, I guess they couldn't use the range. They weren't allowed to do that. They could only play. So he said I just
How
played.
fucking stupid is all this shit?
So it's not like
I
he's
do not
playing
want to
all the time.
digress into the inconsistencies, but let's just admit it. They're
Yeah, there are
there,
a lot,
man.
yeah.
It's all over the place.
Right.
So that I guess that is the one frustrating part. Is you watch it and you go, hey, everybody's trying to cover their ass. They're trying to do the right thing, and they're trying to do it for the right reasons. They don't want to have anyone test positive, and if they do, they want to remove them from the situation as quickly as possible.
Looks like they'll be removed. They're a liability. They got to go.
Give them the hook, literally and figuratively. So you got soccer overseas. You've got golf starting tomorrow, and the NBA is gaining traction with going to Disney and playing their 22-team tournament.
Which
for lack
I
of a
still
better,
don't really get.
I don't get it either. And all right. So since we're on it, we don't ever talk NBA. Let's go ahead and give it a few minutes, especially as it pertains to the Wizards. Technically speaking, they're part of this group, right? They're 6 games back out of 8th. They're going to play top 16. So what they're allowing is the Wizards in the East, and then I think there are 3 to 4 teams in the West that are within that 6 game of 8th place to play. And I guess you have to get within 4. If 8 and 9 are within 4 games of one another, then they'll do like a mini 2-game playoff or 3-game playoff.
Okay, that's the part I was going to ask about because I know I'd heard that too. But yeah. So I guess if the Wiz, what would you say have to get within 4 in those? Okay,
Right, but that would mean they'd essentially have to go like 6-2 and hope another team went 2-6 that they're
Right.
chasing.
And even then, they would have to beat the other team twice.
And
So-
I think their best 8-game rolling this season is 5-3. That's their best.
And they have to go 8-2 at worst.
Yeah,
including winning the last 2.
So
I
Seems kinda
don't give a
pointless.
fuck if they play. Couldn't care
all right.
less.
So if it's on TV, Jerry, and they're playing at a little gym, so the early season tournaments in the NCAA,
Like a D-League setting.
yeah, a little bit. Or how they play like the Battle of Atlantis? They play in the Bahamas. They
Right.
do that awful
Sure,
tournament.
yeah.
And the gym is just terrible. The lighting's awful. There's literally no one there.
It's like
there's like 15 people.
UVA versus Shalimar.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. There's like 15 people there.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to be like. So as far as viewing goes for us, A, we're not NBA fans. B, I don't really think we give a shit about the ambiance in some random Disney arena. We're just happy to see professional sports. But
Other than the Greek Freak, who I guess plays for Milwaukee.
Correct.
Were they the number 1 team in the East?
Yes.
yes,
Okay. Who's the number 1 team in the West? Was it the Lakers?
Honestly, I don't know.
I don't know.
now we can look it up. But
Why bother?
yeah, nobody's listening anyway. Who gives a shit? Yeah. So
Christ, I can't find it.
the hell with it. So NBA has some plans in place, and the smart thing that they have going for it by going to one localized location is if they can get everybody tested and on board and there, then they're essentially quarantining themselves for the 6 to 8 weeks that this entire process is going to take. Maybe even a little longer than that, more like 10 to 12 weeks. So they'll have their 8 games, then they'll have first round of the playoffs, and so on and so forth. You really shouldn't have any positive tests at that point.
It's a dying league. They better hope the viewership is on board, but it's a dying league.
Well, I don't know. I think they get a lot of TV viewers.
They
really
do, man. They've got a niche audience, and they're more than a niche audience. They get a casual audience, and that's what the NHL doesn't get.
Their contracts kill it.
No, you're right. You're right.
They're pricing themselves out of any.
And the product on the court, in my opinion, is just so watered down compared to even 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. So,
I mean, you realize when you watch The Last Dance how much better basketball was back then.
It was tremendous. It was competitive, and there were series in the second quarter that were competitive that could have an outcome on the game. Now, literally does not matter what you do until about 9 minutes left in the fourth.
Well, even more than that, it's everybody's making their teams. They're just bringing all their boys together, and all the best players are going to the best team.
Yeah, super teams.
Yeah, so it's like 6 legitimate teams that have a chance to win, and everybody else is just scrubs.
It is truly a league of like collusion, isn't it?
Right.
I
mean, could you imagine? I mean, I don't know. Everybody talks about LeBron. Dude, Jordan was so much better than he was because, I get it. He had Pippen, legit good player. But other than that, I mean, he was working with Bill Winnington, right? John Paxton,
Dennis Rodman,
Steve Kerr, and they would bring these guys in.
I know it.
I mean, so it's
Horace Grant.
Yeah, I hate to be the old guy on the Muppets right now, which is what I am. I'm the old curmudgeon, I trash everything, but I couldn't care less if the NBA comes back or doesn't come back. That's just my view.
I won't
even watch it.
I will probably watch more out of intrigue, like I've been doing with everything else, just to kind of get an idea of what's going on and to see how the rollout is, see how the production value is, and it's basketball. It's played on a court. I mean,
I will watch hockey.
Oh yeah,
I will watch baseball on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
I will not watch basketball. But I'm just hoping college football plays. I'm not even really gonna give a shit about the NFL, which is a lock to play because there's so much money.
Okay, so you bring up a really good point. This is where, so when we met last time, there were very mixed reviews at this table as well as nationally about the NHL and the true prospects of their 24 game or 24 team mini tournament buy-in or play-in, et cetera, to get down to playoff level and then play at a couple different cities, right? I think that their plan is actually more and more solid as the weeks have gone on, and it looks to me like they're going to play. It's really just a matter of dates and cities at this point.
So,
and the reason I say
what has happened since the last time? Any updates?
Not really,
but they've allowed teams to abide by their local jurisdiction to get back on the ice, individual activities, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess
Caps were allowed back today or tomorrow or something.
Kettler opened up today, and they were allowed 6 at a time, on the ice, no coaches, to get their skating legs back a little bit.
Had to wear saran wrap around their face, which kind of limited things. But
so it looks like they're saying training camp will begin July 10th. And again, a couple weeks ago, we were like, that's forever away. Why even do this? Well, the market is just crying for pro sports to come out in any way, shape, or form. I think that it's incumbent upon them as a league. Jeremy made the point. Most of the players have already been paid the majority of their salaries. So at this point, it's about finishing the season that they've already started, which gives them a leg up with the NBA over Major League Baseball.
Are the players still more lukewarm in hockey than the rest of the...
Again, the last 2 weeks, from what I've seen, everybody's like, "Let's go." Okay. Guys are they're shooting pics about hey, I was out today with I did a bag skate by myself with a face mask, sweated my balls off, it was great and all this other stuff. So I just think that these guys are hockey junkies and they want to play no matter what.
Yeah, and the thing that's encouraging, so I don't know if it was the last pod or the one before, but I was not very optimistic.
Yeah, I used the word lukewarm, but.
But
you were actually you were pessimistic.
Well, the thing is, that's because everything I'd heard up to that point was that they were really pushing to not have a major impact on next season. Everything I've heard since then, that's out the window pretty much. They want to get. I mean, they don't want to have a big impact on next season, but that's not the primary goal. The primary goal is to get this season and playoffs in. And I think if anything is still a potential negative, it's if there is a second wave and they have to shut down again. They want to get this done before that happens.
Right.
So it's a different, ultimatum and a much, essentially looser one, if that's possible with an ultimatum. But, that's the big difference in my opinion from last time.
And I think you're right. And I think they're towing that tough line that every other organization is towing, whether it's sports or business or anything else, is the sense of urgency to get moving now while it appears it's, under control, for lack of a better term, because what the unknown come fall is there. So if you can gain some traction now in your, place of business or sport, do it, because you don't know what lies ahead. And hey, if shit opens up and you got fans back in the stands by November, killer, awesome, bonus.
Well,
but they just don't know.
And I want to change to college football at some point, but that was a great transition by me. Anybody else?
Seamless.
Say anything about hockey before we move on?
Well, yeah, I think that I think in the next couple of weeks you're going to hear actual dates, and I think August 1st is going to be when they really just drop the puck and play real live games. Yep. We'll know the cities, we'll know the schedule. They'll have. I mean, this is just a TV exec's dream once all this rolls out. Right. How can you go back to back to back to back games almost every night of the week? It's going to be it's going to be really, really cool. I really think August, September could be fucking awesome for watching hockey.
Well, they're talking about running this was NBA, but I got to figure NHL is similar, up to like 6 games a day.
Yep.
But so what are they're going to have to run them at all hours.
Oh yeah, they're going to have matinees every day.
Yeah, and which I think is why not? We'd actually think we had sort of talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe run practically 24 hours a day. Yeah. So everybody's got DVR. So
now. Well, I'm reading the NBC Sports, and there's a story from the 10th saying that it's more likely that all of the hub cities will be in the United States rather than Canada, because Canada has a 14-day ban or a 14-day quarantine guideline.
Right.
And so it looks like all of the hub cities will be American cities. Which is crazy because they have 100 and some thousand deaths in America and like 8,000 in Canada.
That's because nobody lives in Canada.
I was going to say the population's disparity is even more significant.
And
than
also, that. it's die with COVID, not die from COVID. So.
Correct. Yeah, we won't get into
into politics of
into the skewed statistics that exist, but they do.
But for whatever reason, more likely they'll be playing all the games in the United States, which means, just basically, why don't we just fucking say it's going to be Pittsburgh?
Yeah, that'll probably be one of the hub cities.
So I'm looking forward to it. I think the Caps will benefit from the break, get their older guys a little bit, assuming they can get warmed up and are motivated to play.
So that's the next question.
Are they motivated?
Quality of play, I think, is going to be in the shitter when it starts.
Most likely.
It's going to be slow. It's going to be discombobulated. It's going to be...
We've talked about it. It's just, no matter how much you train or whatever you do, the things that amaze us about these guys, the ridiculous, skate-to-stick plays, that they roof from a foot away when it hit them in the ass on the way to the goal or something like that, or just, the deflections, things like that, quick hands off of a blocked shot somewhere else in the slot or whatever. That's the kind of stuff you will not have without reps.
Yep.
And it'll probably take, through the first series to get that back.
I agree.
So you go up against a team, that's what I was saying earlier too, about I think the young teams have the advantage early because I think you can outleg somebody in the first 10 games or so, which will go through the first round. And after that, I think everybody will sort of get everything back, and then the talent will rise. But until then, I think it's going to be all about skating, which the league's about anyway. So it's not really a bad thing. It's just the way it's going to be.
No, I could not agree more.
And the Caps, I just read that will resume small group activities tomorrow.
Sweet.
There it is. So, so it's coming. It's coming slowly but surely, as we thought it would. It couldn't last like that forever. And I'm just hoping that everyone is safe. I'm hoping that there's as little drama as possible with regard to the political implications and some of the other things that go on. And I hope that sports offers that, that distraction that we're all kind of seeking and hoping for, and the enjoyment that we get as sports fans rooting for our team.
There's nothing more exciting than NHL playoffs and frustrating at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
I can already see what's going to happen. Game 7, I'll be underneath the sofa, cussing everybody.
We just hope they get to game
My
7,
daughter's
right?
calling me.
Live on the air.
Live on the air.
I love it.
Awesome. Thank you.
So before we get into the college ranks, like Jay was talking about, there's one more sports league here in the U.S. that we have to talk. Well, there's actually 2. The first one is baseball, who is completely just shitting all over itself right now. The posturing between the owners and the players right now is hysterical. And
That's one word for it.
and Jerry brought it up last time, that old school quote from, Tom Glavine. It's like, you can dig your heels in. You can say you're doing the right thing for you and your boys and the players, but you got to look down the road, because if you want another contract in 5 or 6 years, don't spite the future opportunities now and look so short term. So I think both parties are culpable, as usually happens in these negotiations. But the fact that neither even want to budge, and they just rebrand the next proposal as something new, and it's just a retread.
They have obviously significant defense.
Maybe they'll sell for $15,000 a piece and just go on the way.
Right, but they have significant fundamental differences, and they just rebrand their packages to create the illusion that they've changed something when in fact it's still the same.
It is the exact same. It's quite frustrating. But again, as baseball not being a sport that I live and die by, I don't quite care right now.
Sucks about the Nats though; they can't even unveil their shit.
I know. Hey, at least they got it last year though.
I really, I feel the same way, honestly, about baseball, aside from the Nats, as I do about the NBA. I don't care. I mean, I'm not going to watch. I'm going to be watching hockey. So, it doesn't really bother me. But I think I was in the minority on this when the NHL went on strike. I know this obviously isn't a strike, but it feels like it in a lot of ways for baseball. I think the players are so short-sighted. The owners don't need this money.
Right.
They own baseball teams. They're fine. Mm-hmm. These players are the ones that need money. Some of them actually need it. Some of them need it to keep living their lifestyles. They're the ones who are shooting themselves in the foot. Deal with it. You're screwed this year. Fine. But if you don't do that this year, you're probably going to be screwed the rest of your career, all these guys.
Yep.
To me, it just makes no sense.
And that's what I was saying with hockey. I really think they're going to play, because right now there's such a shortage of good, solid proposals and sports out there. As one of the major leagues, whether it's NHL, NBA, Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, they got to figure out how to play. And if one doesn't, they're going to be so far behind the curve,
Well, I think baseball has been in trouble anyway with so many games. They're already seeing reduced,
attendance.
And things. We say it about it. We can say about every sport these days. With so many other ways to consume everything, not just sports. The people have other options. But again, it's just like people are going to find out they don't need baseball. And again, and there are 162 games. And again, I know you need to fight for your rights to some extent. But build something into the next year or the year after, the next couple years, that brings in a slightly higher percentage of money.
Right.
Maybe agree to get 2% of the pie the next 2 seasons or something like that.
Sure.
Now again, would owners go for that? Maybe not. But to me, I'm not hearing anything the players are doing that makes any sense.
Nope.
The owners are at least using numbers. Even if they're fudged a little bit, they're using numbers. Owners are just saying, nope, not good. Or the players are saying, nope, not good enough. It's like, well, fine, but come up with a solution.
Yeah.
And they're not, as far as I'm concerned.
No, so they're in trouble as again, as the days and weeks go by and we hear the NBA getting closer and closer. The NHL has a plan in place. It's getting closer and closer. And then this past week, I know Jerry's going to love this, Major League Soccer has a plan in place now.
Yep.
And they'll be heading down to the wide world of sports at Disney. It's going to be quite the busy area. But they're going to send all 26 teams down there and quarantine them. And
26 teams?
They have 26 teams. Can you
Why?
believe that? And they are going to go
Exactly.
and they're going to play tournament style.
Okay.
Until they can figure out how to kick off playing more normal regular season games at either neutral or home sites. They're going to start right now basically as a league-wide quarantine, put them all together, a wide world of sports, and play tournament style.
As in like World Cup style with groups and stuff
Correct.
like that?
Yep. They're going to do draws for groups, and they're going to go, group winners move on, do a final 16, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, I think the product is blah, but, nobody goes to Major League Soccer games anyway. You know?
Except for out here at Audi.
Well, Audi, Seattle,
Columbus,
Atlanta,
I don't know if they still have
Montreal, Toronto. They all have nice fan bases, but there's a decent number of teams that just don't draw for shit. You know,
they draw your soccerplex size crowd.
Pretty much, yeah. So
which is cool, but not for a major.
Yeah,
sport.
Exactly. I mean, not for top tier professional sport. But again, at least it's something that's in the works that appears to be viable, gaining some traction. And you're already seeing DC United players back at Audi training in small groups. So it's not even talking points anymore. People are physically now at their facilities doing their sports.
Can I ask you guys a question about college football?
Sure.
All right. Have you ever heard of a player named Bryce Brand?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, he just transferred to West Virginia about a month ago. Is he any good?
It's all right.
I mean, he's all right, but he was basically a mid-level D lineman or linebacker at Maryland. So take that for what you will.
All right.
They didn't get a ton of PT at Maryland.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of like
right.
undersized edge rusher, I think. Is that the right way to describe him?
Yeah, he's fine. He's a hybrid.
I think he's one of those guys that you're like, wow, he came out of nowhere. I think he transferred to Maryland from somewhere else and did great for somebody you had no expectations of. So, I mean, he can play a little bit, but, I mean, it's,
WVU just got the big wide receiver from Northwest. His last name's Prather. He just recruited.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
They're actually trying to hit this area a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But has Maryland picked up anybody in the past couple months?
Well, I mean, Tua's brother, obviously.
Yeah, but we talked about that.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, their class is 11th in the country right now.
Well, their class for 2021, is that what we're talking about?
2020, or this season, or 2021, sorry.
Yeah. Their 2021 class, I think, is now vaulted up even higher.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they're top 10 in the country right now, which is...
he can recruit,
makes me a little
can
nervous.
He coach.
Well,
he can recruit.
So Jeremy and I had this convo. If he recruits well enough and has decent staff that he's grooming to become a head coach and literally let them do all the coaching, we got a shot to be okay. Now, are they going to win 8 games in the Big? No, they're not going to win 8 games in the Big Ten. But can they be a 7-5 team and make a bowl? Perhaps.
Right.
You know?
How long do you give him to have to do that before?
All right. So there's the loaded question. Pre-COVID, I would have said 2 more seasons of marked improvement. Win 4, then win 5, be really competitive, grow the depth of the squad. Don't let one injury to some linebacker just destroy your defense,
right.
Which is pretty much where they've been the last couple of years, right? They've been living off of that 5-star high-end talent. But now, with everything going on, who the fuck knows, man? When are they even going to play?
I know. I'm with you. I don't know.
Well, I mean, to me, I think that Locks has shown everything he possibly can to be a CEO, which I think is probably the most important thing.
Well, he learned that from Saban firsthand. I mean,
but I don't think that. I mean, CEO doesn't mean you also handle the CFO and CTO duties. He needs to find those guys in terms of the OC and the DC that can basically run that side of the ball by themselves.
Yes.
Period, and do it well.
Do you think he would allow that?
Yes, I think he is. I do think he's a legit good CEO, and he knows he needs that.
I think he appreciates this opportunity now, having gone out on his own and tried at a small school, failed miserably, worked his way back up, and then got to see like behind the curtain, with Saban and how he did everything. And I think he really appreciates Saban grooming guys to get their next job.
Yeah.
Saban doesn't hold guys back. He goes, you're ready. If you get the offer, you go. And I think he kind of wants to have that mold a little bit, have that system.
That's where the switch will flip for this team. Is I feel like last season, even though obviously it didn't go very well, he had a whole bunch of head coaches in there. The guy from ECU. I think honestly they had at least 3 or 4 head coaches on staff.
I think so
former
too.
Head coaches. Now that's the other side of it. That's guys that have been head coaches and weren't successful, so they have some knowledge, but maybe they don't have the skill or whatever you want to call it, the actual talent. Now what he needs to do is flip that, so he's getting guys that will be head coaches because they absolutely have the talent. Right. And I think that's what Saban does, maybe a Dabo does.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, we all.
I mean, those guys turn away players that West Virginia would drool over.
Oh, same. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, no question. So I mean, as far as the Maryland 2-deep roster goes that we would normally be talking about right now, it's pretty strong.
Well, it all comes. I mean, the number one question is who's playing quarterback for the Terps. It can't be
Josh Jackson.
Josh Jackson.
My guess, honestly, is if it's not going to be Tua's brother, and I'm sorry that I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I don't want to butcher it.
It's Tua's brother.
Yeah. So I think LeJean is going to end up being the guy. That's just my gut. Because that's it.
The kid out of Louisiana, right? Yeah.
But Johnson is Josh Johnson.
Jackson.
Josh. He got into it with Loxley. I mean, I was surprised he stayed.
I was shocked.
Well, but that's the first and only question.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Is who is going to be your quarterback? Because if it's building, you got to have a guy, and I'd go with a young guy. I wouldn't go with this returning senior, especially for a rebuilding team. Throw the kid in there and see what he can do.
Well, Tua's brother has to get the waiver.
Well, I'm not talking about Tua's.
You talk about LeJean.
I'm not sure Tua's brother's that special. I mean, Paul Feinbaum was ripping him. Just basically, he went to Alabama because he was Tua's brother, but he was not good enough to be there.
With all due respect, Feinbaum has pretty much ripped every college player that ever existed.
That's true.
And he hits on half because half of them suck, and he hits on the other half because they're good.
I wouldn't think, though, he's the answer. I think it's going to be.
I know nothing, but you just made the point. Alabama, Clemson, they're turning guys away that we would drool over. I mean, I'm sure his last name helped his ranking, but I'm pretty sure he was still a top 150 kid. It's not like he was garbage. And Maryland would love to get a top 150 quarterback. I think LeJean might have been, but that's all. I mean, they need that.
Yeah.
If I was Loxley, I'd be grooming the young kid with the most upside.
And there is one more piece here, although I guess that's for next season. They're still in the top 3 for the kid out of they can't remember his
Gonzaga.
name.
Yeah, Williams, Caleb Williams, I believe.
Yes.
He's the real deal.
I mean,
man.
I think
top quarterback in the country.
Yeah, I'm assuming he goes to Oklahoma, but he still has Maryland in his
Why
top 3.
wouldn't you go to Oklahoma if you're a kid like that, man? Dude,
Please go to Maryland.
I would love to see him go to Maryland, but I mean, at Oklahoma, you're going to throw it 50 times a game.
Yeah, and
you're going to have 2 wide receivers every year that go in the top, 50.
You're absolutely right.
NFL draft.
It's the easiest quarterbacking job in the country. And nobody plays defense.
Nobody. And head coach there, young guy, is it Lincoln Riley?
Lincoln Riley.
I mean, I would love to play for that guy.
Right.
If you had talent, he's like, go, run fast. Fly pattern,
yeah.
go.
I mean, they're going to score 40 a game.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, his last 2 quarterbacks were Murray and Hurts. And
yep.
Wow, all the way fell over to the second round at Hurts. I mean, that was his bad one of the 2. I mean, so.
Well, you're right. It does come down to who's going to play quarterback. But again, I get the sinking feeling that this upcoming season or year in college football, whether it's fall of 2020 or spring of 2021, is just going to be really weird and odd and different. And it's not really going to be indicative of how we're used to seeing these programs run.
I think they will play because in the fall.
You do?
I do.
Wow.
Because they can't afford not to. They're under a tremendous amount of pressure. There's so much politics into
it's crazy, isn't it?
You can't look at people won't understand when you don't play football, you don't play girls basketball. They don't understand. It's a different sport. It's safer. You don't have girls softball. You don't have wrestling. If their COVID's that bad, that's probably the worst sport, right? But you don't have lacrosse. I mean, Duke will keep lacrosse. Syracuse will keep lacrosse, but they'll be like 16 teams that have lacrosse programs.
Right.
I think they're going to play because they have to get the money. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to fund it.
But how are they going to play and get the money without fans? Because the NFL can do it.
The TV.
Yes, it's big, but as we talked about before, the percentage in college football of gate sales is so much higher. The schools rely on it so much more than the NFL does.
But if they don't have either, they're not going to sustain anything.
Correct. But, I think the overriding question here is, are campuses going to open in the fall for traditional learning academically? If the answer is no, predominantly across the board, how can you have a D1 sport playing? Yeah. You can't.
Well, it's almost going to end up being sort of the inverse of the thought we had of wait till the spring, because, I don't know about Maryland, even that's one I should know about, but I heard Virginia Tech, they're going back on time, planning on being done before Thanksgiving with anything on campus. So that way, just in case there is a second wave, they'll be done.
But isn't there a stipulation in that you can defer your class to be online if you're not comfortable going back to campus?
I'm sure that's the case, but right. I mean, they would still say, hey, students are back on campus.
Yeah. College football players are reporting at the end of this month.
Yeah.
I think some guys. I mean, well, I saw shots of Maryland players look like they were on campus.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're allowed to
And,
do unsupervised.
Wasn't
guess
it Bama
the
who already
longer-
has positive tests because they're all together and they're
Right.
testing or whatever?
the longest, and the longer this goes, with the numbers being decreased and the hospitalizations being down, and people are just fucking tired of it.
Oh.
I mean, they are just
They're
tired of it.
flocking to their favorite establishment
Right,
just to get
it-
that same burger that
it's
they've
just-
had takeout, and
I just think that because the numbers. Who knows with all the protesting and all everybody getting together? But I would assume we were trending on a way where June was going to be better than May, July is going to be
Yep.
better than June, and by August people are going to be like, "What the fuck? Who gives a shit?"
Right.
And now the CDC. I mean, it doesn't help that the CDC comes out with all these new, Now they say if you're asymptomatic, it's really rare to be able to get somebody sick.
and that it was published and since brought back and recanted.
Was that
And they were
recanted?
like, yeah, that really wasn't what we meant to say. I'm like,
Well,
what you
it's the-
meant to say? What the fuck?
So
asymptomatic versus pre-symptomatic and all that.
yeah, I don't know. All I know is kids aren't getting sick, and these are the kids that are playing. So
Yeah, but they're making the money off of Joe Schmo, who's tailgating, going to the game, doing everything else.
I don't think the having fans in the stands is going to be determinative. Is can you have it in the spring? Can you have it? They're playing unless someone tells them they're not playing.
especially for 1 year. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the thing. I think that they can
They can absorb
sustain
that hit
for
Yeah.
1 year. And I still think, I mean, this isn't, knocking Maryland. I know we always make the joke, well, they're already doing social distancing in College Park. Ha, ha, ha. But I mean, I think where it really matters is your Penn States, your Ohio States, your Alabama, your SEC.
Real quick. Nothing matters at Penn State. Continue. Go ahead.
No, but you're right. They're playing.
Because they're getting 100,000 people in there.
Yeah, I think West Virginia is limiting half its 50% capacity, and you have to be a season ticket holder. Iowa State's doing the same thing. They've announced that.
Okay,
So
I haven't heard any of that. It's good.
yeah, so that's what they're doing. So that means if Penn State, it's 50,000.
Right.
So now obviously that could be a aspirational announcement, but I just think there is so much pressure to have football.
Yeah.
People they're going to bend it, and then they're going to give excuses.
I do think you're right. The pressure is huge. The financial windfall that football is to these schools.
I mean,
is
if you don't
just
have football,
enormous.
you cannot have sports.
I know.
You just can't.
And that's why I said it almost starts with the academic part of it. If 50% of the campuses in the U.S. are remote online learning only, campuses closed, that school cannot field their D1 college football team
Why?
because they don't have the infrastructure on campus to treat them, even though they're different, to treat them like the other students.
I mean,
I've heard many.
Right. I've heard people come out and just say, "Look, if we don't have school, we're not coming.
Right.
We're not playing football." And I get it, but why?
I have a feeling that within the Big Five, Power Five, I think you'll see as long as, let's say, half the schools are back on campus, they'll say for competitive reasons, meaning money.
Right.
The rest of the schools that are okay with it, you know what I can almost see happen, which would absolutely suck.
Even if you don't play, we'll play your share.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
they'd
yeah.
say, well, we're not going to play in College Park or at Rutgers because they're hot spots still, so they're going to have to play all their games on the road.
Right.
Something
Well,
like that.
I could see it being, cutting everything but count. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be a free for all as is college season. I
all
mean,
conference,
all
games,
conference,
right.
games.
limited or no fans, like we've been
Right.
saying.
I mean, I think it's going to be that just to get it on TV.
I hope so. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I've just been sitting here and saying I don't care if there's fans in the
And
stands.
they may eliminate bowls
Yeah,
well,
they
the thing
might.
is, they
other than
might-
the playoffs.
I would say the playoff. Maybe this is the year they go to an 8-team playoff or something like that, because those would probably be the biggest, whatever that is. 7 games of the year would be the playoff,
Right.
In terms of money. But what I was really wondering, what I was getting at with my pathetic segue earlier, was what I was wondering is, again, flip this. Do they maybe play mid-August through Thanksgiving? Is the Saturday after Thanksgiving is the national championship game?
Well,
Something like that.
I think it's too late to do that.
I don't know.
I think they would have had to plan on that earlier.
Well, the thing is, they've been saying what, 6 weeks? Is what I think even Locke said that the other day.
That's what they
need to
need
get ready.
Yeah.
So if they're back July 1st, they'll start playing mid-August.
I don't know if you guys saw, but in the past week, Oklahoma State basketball has been slammed. They got a 1-year postseason ban for the transgressions that they have done, and they are the least culpable of all the schools. So Kansas is in big trouble.
No shit.
For what? For just recruiting stuff, or
what like the Nike stuff?
Okay.
I think but
Self has been he's been dodging a bullet here the last couple of years.
yeah,
You know,
but I mean, the people who know, right when they announced the Oklahoma State 1-year ban and then losing like 3 scholarships for like the next 2 years.
oh, that's
They
killer.
said that's a signal to everybody else that it's coming because they were the least culpable of all the transgressions. Now you know how it usually works. Everybody but Kansas,
right? Right.
Kansas will
Or they make an example out of a team like Oklahoma State, and then they tell Kansas, "Hey, get your books in line."
Well,
get your
North
shit
Carolina
together.
has a decade of taking fake classes, and they don't get anything.
But Jerry,
Bullshit. They're fine young men.
They allowed any student on campus to take enroll in those classes. That's why it's okay. What's the problem?
Right? No,
No, I'm not serious at all.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I'm so cynical. As you can tell, I'm about as pessimistic as I've ever been. I think I'm just worn out. I'm just worn out.
You
of
know,
all the
part of it
shit.
is worn out. The other part of it is when you start to think about just what you do in your daily life and how many restrictions are still in place, and how again how there are different rules in one realm than another. And then you think logistically how that relates to a sport. Logistically, I just get exhausted.
I just want somebody to be honest. That's all. And I just want
That is a pipe dream.
I
my
just
friend.
want
Well said,
somebody, and I'm not even talking about stupid ass politicians. I'm just talking about can somebody be honest? Like, I don't even trust Fauci anymore. When he says, I think it's like he's not on TV enough anymore. So now he interjects himself by saying,
He even admitted, he goes, this spread way differently than any of us infectious disease people would have ever imagined. And I'm going, you spent your life studying this.
But is it possible? It's just not as bad as people think. It's the hysteria of it.
Extremely possible.
And the thing is, the bottom line is we just don't know. And I'm going to, back up Fauci just a little bit, because I think if you asked people honestly in that field, they would say they don't know first and then say, but this is what we see from the models.
Right.
Well, that wasn't acceptable 3 months ago, because you say that, either going to be mass hysteria or nobody's going to listen. One or the other. And unfortunately,
Like nobody-
Cats and dogs living together.
they may have just said the wrong things.
But I when it relates to sports, dude, if you don't know, open back up and wish for the best.
It's kind of.
I mean, I'm not going to go to the games, but
naturally, though, in society, that's essentially what we're doing right now.
open back up and
And
wish for the best.
I'm with you, Jerry. The protests have thrown a wrench into the true numbers, however truthful you want to think that they are. But
It's not the numbers; it's the hospitalizations.
that's the key.
Right, it's the hospitalization.
So I heard a stat yesterday, and they said Sacramento is one of the first cities, in that LA corridor to open up first, and they've seen a spike in hospitalizations over the last 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh shit, that doesn't bode well. And then the head of the CDC out there goes, yeah, but everything's manageable. We're not over capacity. It's just a little more than normal. And I'm like, then that's not really a spike, for fuck's sake.
Right, dude.
But that's what I mean. Who said it was a spike? Was it the guy, and then he explained himself, or somebody else said it?
Somebody else.
See, that's the problem.
It was LA Times.
So many people-
Spike in Sacramento.
I mean, I know I do it every week, or it hasn't been every week recently. I talk about stuff I have no idea what I'm talking about all the time, but I'm not important. These people, nobody
7
listens to me.
people are listening to this podcast.
That's exactly right.
When people are actually
Not at
listening
the
to
same
you,
time either.
and you have no idea what you're talking about, it actually can be detrimental. And that's kind of the thing. It probably is the most hospitalizations, because now people are going out, getting in car accidents, breaking their leg playing basketball. Well, nobody was doing that for 3 months. So nobody was going to the hospital unless they had, they thought they might have had COVID. Now
Right.
people are actually going back to the hospital for things. And, maybe it's even just hospitalization after a surgery. So that's why he's saying that.
Well, I'm a little with Jerry, in terms of society will naturally begin to eke back into what we grasp as normal and day to day, just for our sanity more than anything else.
Right.
And if the true number of hospitalizations continue to either decline or flatten, and we're doing relatively normal things in bigger groups and everything else, I think eventually, like you said, somebody's just going to be like, you know what, fuck it, we're playing, gates are open, If we get fined, we get fined.
Right. I mean,
first 10,000 people, go every other seat, go.
I would hope people would not make the decisions about sports out of fear and out of PR fear, right? If someone gets COVID playing hockey, we're going to take a PR hit, so we can. But
that's essentially how this thing started because we didn't know.
But do it rather as a risk
Risk.
assessment, risk management, right? You recognize some people are going to get COVID. They are. Some people who, if you test every day and everybody's good, and the next day one guy has it, that guy's gone.
Let's go specific example of what our favorite topic was tonight, college football. Okay, we already talked about maybe 50% capacity, season ticket holders only. Well, go on top of that and say, we're recommending masks. If you're at risk, we really recommend it, or we recommend you don't show up, full refunds and or push back to the next season. No questions asked on your season tickets, whatever it is. Give everybody options.
Absolutely.
And that way,
they're not doing that right now.
You're covered liability wise, and you'll start letting people that want to make that choice.
If you come to the game, you'll be signing a release, So if you play football you're signing a release.
I'm sure they got Jeff's money up at WVU. They should.
I hope so.
Maryland sure as shit got my money.
Jerry
I haven't seen.
I hope so because I want to go to the game. I want to make everybody else, make sure nobody's dying when they go, and then I'll go.
You're not going to be first in line?
You guys know that Maryland plays West Virginia this year?
I did.
Fuck, I didn't know that until I saw the schedule.
I don't think I knew that.
Yep.
Yes, they do.
So
God damn it, I hate that shit.
I know. Well, as you said, it's really a no-win for you as a WVU fan because if West Virginia wins, you're supposed to. If Maryland wins, you'll never hear the end of it from your Maryland.
You didn't talk to me for I know I was a dick. That was on me. Well, I can say that most of the time. Usually, it was on me. But Mitch wouldn't talk to me. I got Todd. It was some rainy game. I was cussing him out because
the one where we beat like 37-0.
Yeah,
that was fun.
In the Ravens Stadium.
Oh, that's right. That's when you called me fat, bastard.
That was me, probably.
No, it was me. He's like, "Shut up! You guys are winning. You look fat." It's like, "Fuck you."
It was kind of funny.
It was hilarious.
We weren't sitting together. We were just texting. Right?
No,
that's right because we were sitting behind the end zone. We were like second row behind the end zone.
Yeah, and then West Virginia started winning, and I wasn't able to talk shit to anybody. Mitch was like, "Bah, bah, 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 bah."
Now, it is one of those no wins, but it is a good border rivalry from the standpoint of recruiting grounds.
Well, that's why I mean West Virginia is recruiting in Maryland now, so that's a good a good game for them. I really like this head coach. I don't know if he can coach worth a shit, but he seems like a good guy, and
he and Loxley will recruit the hell out of players, and then they'll get out on the field and it'll be like 6-3.
This is still a Penn State, Ohio State territory.
Loxley's,
yeah. Ohio State and Penn State kill this area. Kid from Good Counsel is going there. The best offensive tackle in the country is going to Penn State. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, look, Franklin he's a great recruiter. Penn State's got the name. They have the allure. Part of me is a little devious, and I'd like to see them play in the fall without fans in the stands. Yeah. And I'd like to see what some of these teams that live off of the 100,000 fan, whiteout, intimidating atmosphere, what do they do when they play Rutgers in front of nobody, but it's at Penn State and there's nobody there? And what if Rutgers has some stud running back who, busts out an 80-yard, run and everything else?
Obviously,
is it going to even the playing field a little bit? I don't know.
In a close game, that might matter, but against teams like Rutgers, it's
you wouldn't think so. But look at Maryland, Ohio State a couple years ago. Maryland had no business being even close to being in that game, and there they were.
And they basically did win that
game. But doesn't Maryland play Ohio State fairly well? Like they'll play Ohio State tougher than they do Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my sense anyway. There's some teams, that you just play better against.
Yeah.
And
you're right.
And I think, if they play 10 times, they'll lose 10 times, but 5 out of 10, Maryland will give them a scare. Whereas maybe it's Michigan, it doesn't ever seem.
No, but you're right. But against Nebraska, we can't even get like a first down.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and it's year to year, and that's the thing that Loxley wants to improve. I think is make sure at least every other year you have a shot against even the bigger teams.
And that's what I was saying earlier.
We beat Michigan with Edsel for Christ's sake, right? I mean,
have depth. Have 2 or 3 deep that the third guy in line is a 3-star you never heard of instead of a walk-on or oh man, that guy played JUCO at MC, and
Yeah. I mean, if you're recruiting JUCOs and relying on them consistently, you're going to lose.
exactly right. That needs to be the guy that's in the slot as your second or third guy, special teamer, versatile, whatever else. And I think Maryland's getting a little closer, but they got a ways to go.
What's any updates with like basketball? Any new recruits? I know they lost a shit ton of people.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
From what I know, and I don't know any names, but I guess I don't know how much of it's COVID related with not really doing visits and stuff like that. But apparently Maryland has a couple holes to fill. They think they will fill them. It's just a question if they get their first or second choice or like the fourth and fifth choice. So they'll be okay with the roster, and they got some decent players, some decent freshmen. And again, they just got their second four-star for basketball for the next year, and they're top 5 in the country right now. Class.
Yeah, their 2021 class is top 5 in the country.
Good.
So this year could be rough, but again, if it's going to be rough for everybody because it's just weird, okay, take that transitional year, chalk it up to
I'm telling you, this Zion Williamson lawsuit may have some legs because he has to give testimony under oath about any benefits he received from Duke. And it's easy to deny it, but if you're sitting in a deposition, you have to answer specific questions.
Well, they'll give him immunity on anything, I'm guessing.
Well, this is a civil trial,
okay,
so there's no immunity.
But
I guess he could plead the fifth. So but if he pleads the fifth, I don't want to make it a law school.
No, but then it's assumed
if he pleads the fifth, then in a civil trial you can use that as an inference that it's an admission.
That's correct. Yeah, that's what I mean. You essentially indict yourself without doing it if you choose to go that route. And,
so civilly,
and if the public pressure is
civilly, there can be some recourse, whereas criminally you can't. But again, the Fifth Amendment applies to the court of law. It does not apply to the court of public opinion.
Right.
Someone pleads the fifth, you're free to say, "I think he did it."
Yep.
Because he pleaded the fifth. Otherwise, you say it.
That's right.
It's fine.
Yep.
But I just that
I
might be
got
something.
nothing from Duke. So the Camaro. Well, I didn't think he meant that. That was just a toy,
Well, I mean, they're alleging that his mom got benefits.
Yep.
And, So we'll
yeah.
see.
The analogy I heard, and granted, it was some asshole like Skip Bayless or something, but he said it's on par a little bit with how the Reggie Bush thing started, and people were like, no, and then they were like, oh shit, this can't be denied. Now there's a paper trail out there somewhere, and it was only a matter of time before he went, yes, they gave me everything.
But COVID has made all these stories go away.
Yeah. No,
we'll see.
we shall see.
All right, so the last thing I heard on hockey, back to that, is they're starting in July with camps. Playoffs start in August, and they will start training camp in January.
For the following season. That's what I've heard as well. Yep.
Sounds good to me.
Hey, man, I'm on board.
Yeah. I just like that they have a plan. I mean, I'm going to keep bashing baseball until they have one.
How fat is Ovechkin right now? That guy probably 240.
I've seen some pictures. I think he still looks good unless they're old pictures.
Really?
He just had his second kid, and he's been out in the driveway playing with the dog.
Has anybody seen Kuzi?
I personally have not, no. I can only imagine what he's been doing.
He's what? Camp?
Now, there's going to be
his camp.
There's definitely going to be a couple guys that come back, and they're going to be in rough shape.
Yeah. I don't think Gudis is going to come back.
He might not.
But he was. I think the way the season was trending, he was on the outside looking in anyway. I mean, he was a healthy scratch for.
Well, as Jeremy said, I mean, younger legs, more fluid skaters are probably going to be more impactful early on. Well, not that our guys in Hershey are setting the world on fire, but we got some young defensemen that can skate.
Well, this 30-man, I think it's 30 skater roster they're talking about. Talk about skaters. A game changer.
Huge.
I mean. Well, and it's not, I guess, not that big of a game changer because you always have the black aces and things like that. But I just think that what you're going to see is, again, I'm really just intrigued to see the schedules. Again,
Me too.
Because I've been championing this idea of you don't need more than 2 days off in a 7-game series. Maybe 3 if you get before games. You only got 4 games 7.
Completely
you're
agree.
done in 10 days max.
Right.
That's what I'm envisioning. And I could be 100% wrong. I don't know.
I hope
and
you're
it's
right.
4 7-game rounds.
Absolutely.
Which is
it's going to be a grind.
It's
It's going to be awesome. But I actually heard EJ Raddick made a great point. He said the teams that have touted the 2 goalie system, he said they're sitting pretty now. He said because you envision the Holtbys, the Lundqvists, the Rasks of the world just putting the team on their back in the playoffs. That's because of the grind of 82 games and then the first round and everything else. He goes, this is completely different. He goes, all it takes is one slide post to post. You tweak something a little bit. It's like, how is that guy? He goes, you're going to see teams maybe even alternate, you know? And he actually brought up the Caps in that scenario.
Samsonov,
He goes,
Halak in Boston.
Yep.
I mean, you know, that's...
Well, that's awesome because you know what? Coaching is going to matter, and we have a terrible coach. So awesome.
I've heard he's been reading during this.
Awesome.
there's
He's
this,
been selling cupcakes. Is it? No, he's not the cupcake guy. Oh, I hope our power play guy has been working on stuff. That's great.
Oh, that was your buddy Blaine Forsythe.
And one of the Caps coaches is now the coach at some college team.
Dartmouth.
nice.
Yeah, but he's allowed to stay with the team
He's staying
through.
with okay.
So
whatever,
who got
because-
that job?
I'm not going to pull his name right now. I was not prepared for that question,
I
Jeremy.
didn't know
God
that
damn
even
it.
happened.
Yeah, I read that online.
Yep. So, well,
It's,
hey,
it's the new guy. It's the guy from Hershey.
fuck it. We'll bring it up
Whatever.
next time.
Good luck. Good job. Whoever.
Oh, well,
you
yeah,
are.
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I wish I knew who you were.
Yeah, head coach D1
Wish I knew you
hockey. Head coach D1 hockey, especially Ivy
That's
Leagues. That's a damn good job. You're treated very, very well.
We'll look that up and find out. We'll give you a shout out next time.
I know our listeners are dying to know the answer to
Who
that.
gives a rat's ass?
They're talking about a what? A who?
All right,
What sport
so
are they talking
as
about?
we sit here today, to recap, hockey is supposed to start the first week of July with camp,
I think,
and
yeah,
then
July 10th.
Yeah.
and then in the first week of July or first week of August with the
We're
schedule,
open August 1.
Right.
Yeah.
and then NBA is in talks, but nothing has been confirmed in terms
I've
of
heard
dates.
July 31st. I've just heard that,
and camp start.
No, that they would start like their actual
So they want to. It's potential the NBA could start before the NHL.
within a
Well, yeah,
few
'cause
days.
They want to play how many?
They
we
wanna
haven't
play
said it, but
8.
Yeah, 8 regular season games.
Oh, okay.
So they need to get that in somehow.
Baseball still at a deadlock,
Correct.
impasse, and the NFL is planning on moving forward until someone tells them they're
Pretty
not gonna
much,
play.
yeah.
And we know
Yeah.
absolutely nothing about college football in
No,
terms of
we don't
something
know.
happening.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Sweet. Good reporting, guys.
Dude, we rule
And then Premier League starts.
Next
next
week,
Wednesday.
Okay, and after that point, nobody will watch the German league. Okay.
I probably
Hey, you know
won't.
what? Loved watching Bundesliga. You guys are great. I'll watch you this weekend. That'll be my swan song, and then after that, it's going to be all English clubs, baby.
So I cheer for Arsenal. How are they this year?
Sitting seventh
Okay.
or eighth.
This is- okay.
Pretty solid. It is actually. You know what? They might even be closer to the top 4. After it's basically Liverpool and then everybody else right now.
Yeah,
And
by a long
that's
shot.
your squad.
Correct.
All right, who's
Correct.
your squad?
Spurs, Tottenham.
Tottenham.
Okay, how are
Tottenham and Arsenal are
Arsenal
sitting
like
very
5 or 6 or
yeah,
something
they're
like
top 4 is huge because that gets you into Champions League the following year,
Of course it does. Everybody knows that.
which is monster revenue.
Right.
And it touts you as one of the big clubs in your,
So when my squad finishes 7th, that's a bad year for them because they're one of the high revenue
terrible.
teams, right?
Yeah.
So
they've been in the Europa League, which is like the JV tournament the last couple of years. And I mean, Arsenal fans are like, I don't even want to fucking
so
watch.
we got to fire our manager. Can we
I've
bring
done
over?
that a couple times.
Can
So,
we bring over Nick Saban?
they actually have the guy who was Pep's understudy at Man City. And
Okay.
Pep is considered like the master,
right.
So
Well, let's go Arsenal.
go Gunners.
There
Boo.
you go. Yeah.
Fuck the Gunners.
Can't wait till they play Liverpool.
It's
Todd,
great.
you look fat sitting in your chair.
I love playing Arsenal because I get to see at least 3 or 4 goals for us every single time.
yeah.
It's great. Defense is optional at Arsenal. So, it's not optional doing this every week until Real Sports comes back. I think we need to be out
It's
here.
coming. It's
Let's
coming.
go. Let's go. So until next week, wings, beers, and tears. Let's hope we got some traction. Let's hope we got some more shit to talk about, and we're even closer.
Peace.
All right, guys. Have a good week. We will see you then.
Peace.